Hello, welcome back to the Jet Press Podcast. My name is Justin Fried, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Mike Luciano. Mike, we're back in the swing of things. It is after week one. We're going to be talking some overreactions about Justin Fields, Brandon Stevens, Xavier Gipson is gone. How are you feeling, buddy? What's going on?
As good as you can feel for an 0-1 team that's not projected to win as many games. And one of the two problem areas we identified is no longer a problem area because he's no longer a member of the New York Jets.
That's true.
We'll get into that. We'll also look back at week one, kind of close the book on that with some pretty interesting statistical anomalies that we can go take a gander at, and then look ahead more earnestly to week two against the Buffalo Bills. You thought the Jets' schedule would get easier. Oh, how wrong you were. We got two playoff teams from last year in a row, one of which is on the road week 3 in Tampa Bay. But before we get into any of that, thank you guys for tuning into the Jet Press Podcast. You know where to find us on Apple, Google, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there, and we're on YouTube. You can subscribe there. You can like the stream there. You can donate 99 cents a month to become a member there. You can be like Austrian Jet fan and be very philanthropic and hand out a couple memberships to some people in the viewing audience. So however you choose to spend your hard-earned cash, we are very appreciative, never expected, always appreciated. Let's just get right into things because the Jets gave us a hot ticket news item right off the presses, right before we went live. And I want to talk about accountability with this because what some fans think accountability is the second a guy makes a bad play, cut him or bench him. And then, if the guy replaces him, makes a bad play, then you bench him, and it's just this cycle. I'm like, that's no good. That's not accountability.
The Jets should cut Quincy Williams.
That's chaos is what it is, not accountability. Yeah. Sometimes accountability is just, even if you continue to throw them out there, holding them accountable, making sure that they are held to task some way for poor performance. Happens with all the best teams. As Zachary Berner said, Glenn put the hammer down, Gipson and Saleh could never. We'll get into that. What accountability is not is defending guys to the hilt when they don't deserve it. There's a difference between being positive. Sometimes Aaron Glenn's very positive and defends his players a lot. And then there's what Robert Saleh would do, which was at a point where they did not warrant it, he continued to defend him, and you look like a fool, like what the Yankees are doing with Anthony Volpe right now. What Aaron Glenn did...
By the way, Mike, I was at that Yankees game last night. I'm not even a Yankees fan. I was at that game. That was fun.
You were one of... another guy I work with was at that game, oddly enough.
Cool.
You would know that. I'll go tell you about that after the show.
I was going to say, yeah, who was at the game?
That was a funny coincidence. Another NFL guy, too. I'll tell you about that.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
But... what Aaron Glenn did here is he realized that accountability for Xavier Gipson, who is expendable. Brandon Stevens right now is not expendable because of that contract. Xavier Gipson is expendable. He said, this is accountability. This is accountability because Xavier Gipson, after costing the Jets a game, not single-handedly, but he played a big part in it.
Absolutely.
You're no longer employed. We have the means to replace you. Your contract is not a detriment to this team's books right now. You're gone. And I do think the Jets fans are kind of overdoing this. It's not like an alpha male masculinity power move thing. Aaron Glenn's not messing around. He's also... It's not that. This is a move that good teams around the league would make. Good example, a bad run team right now is the Cleveland Browns. Their kicker missed an extra point and a field goal in a 1-point game, and they're sticking with him. Ikari Vedvik him, and they're sticking with him.
Yeah.
And Stefanski defended him. What was a young player growing? The Jets did not give Xavier Gipson, a young player who's developing, that same level of leeway. I'm not going to say this is a hallmark of the Aaron Glenn era or a turning point where, oh my God, now we know he means business because he cut Xavier Gipson, because he probably shouldn't even have been on the roster to begin with in the first place. So I'm not going to really take a victory lap on that, but it is refreshing to see somebody admit a loss and not give into the sunk cost fallacy or try to make it work at the detriment of the team to prove that you were right. I feel like there was a lot of that. For as much as we liked Robert Saleh, there was a lot of that in the Saleh era. Aaron Glenn, with no ties to a lot of guys on this roster, said, I don't care that Xavier Gipson's a Robert Saleh development story. You're out the door, because I could have been 1-0 and beaten Aaron Rodgers in my debut, and now I'm 0-1.
100%. I think you nailed it pretty much with all of that. You could point to the fact that, as we talked about for months leading up to, or for weeks leading up to roster cut day, Xavier Gipson probably should not have been on the week 1 roster. I know that they had their own internal tracking that I forget what the number was, but it was like hundreds of
whatever metric that is. I think it's time to retire that. So
yeah, that he fielded like hundreds of punts in a row without muffing anything in practice. That might be true. I'm not gonna.
That reminds me of like you ever as Austrian Jet fan with 20 more.
Austrian Jet fan, you are the man. Once again, we will. If you keep doing this, you will single-handedly fund our show that we can do.
You're above multiple family members. No.
Yeah. Well, depends on the family member. If you keep doing this, you will single-handedly fund a show that we can do in Vienna. So keep it up.
Absolutely. And I can speak German. This guy lived in Germany, can't speak German.
I lived in Germany for 3 years, can't speak. I speak nine German.
That's not even the right.
I know it's not.
I speak no German, is what he said.
Yeah, which is kind of like that's kind of makes sense.
Before I get into a couple comments and then get back to Justin here, doesn't this remind you of you ever tried to do a trick when you're a kid and you can do it perfectly when nobody's watching, and then you show people you can't do it? Yes. That's Xavier Gipson.
Yes,
perfect in practice, as Zachary Berner says. We got a couple quick comments I want to get to.
Sure,
Zachary Berner. It's year 3 for Gipson, and he didn't put the ball into the right hand, which he should know already. That's pretty basic for a return man, and he didn't know that. And then as Austrian Jet fan, love you guys. Love you too,
buddy.
Ron Reagan, who apparently back from the dead here.
Ron Reagan.
Aaron Glenn means business. He does mean business, not necessarily in a very over-the-top grandiose, it's my team now kind of way, but he means business in a way where he's not going to let Xavier Gipson cost him any more games than one.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway, just building off of what you said, was not even necessarily like the he means business. Like he's not going to tolerate any kind of mistakes. Like obviously the coaches have to live with that, right? But it's more so that the coaching staff is willing to right wrongs and admit mistakes when they're there. And it's not even just the Gipson thing, although this is the first like big example of it. You could even point to Alan Lazard being an example of that, because when the Jets reworked Alan Lazard's contract, I am sure they did not envision him being a healthy scratch week 1. I do not think they rework his contract and keep him on the roster if they expect him to be a healthy scratch just riding the bench. I assume they made that move expecting him to be one of their top 3 wide receivers going into the season. They saw what happened in the summer. They saw that Tyler Johnson outperformed him and was a better fit for the offense. So they didn't hesitate. They promoted Tyler Johnson to the active roster. I mean, now he's there full time. And Alan Lazard was a healthy scratch. I think both of those moves show to me that the coaching staff saw that they made a mistake and they quickly doubled back on it. And we're like, all right, we made this mistake. We'll wipe our hands clean and we'll say, hey, you know what? We're going to change things. We're going to right those wrongs. It'll be interesting to see if they follow through on that with other potential players that we could talk about shortly. We could talk about Brandon Stevens. That one will be more difficult because that one is a major mistake if they made that mistake, right? So it's like Gipson, it's the punt returner. It was him or an undrafted rookie making the team. It was not a super consequential. I mean, it ended up being a super consequential decision, but in terms of roster building, salaries, was not a major decision. Alan Lazard, also not like the most high profile decision. Brandon Stevens was the only guy you paid, you gave a 3-year contract to. This was your biggest free agent signing that was not Justin Fields. So it'll be interesting to see how long of a leash they give him. I think another one that could happen that we could see in the near future, Tony Adams, once again struggled in week 1. I think Jets fans already went into the year saying, hey, let's see Malachi Moore. We don't really need to see Tony Adams. I think Adams is a fine replacement level, solid backup.
Woody Johnson would think otherwise based on last
year. Well, the funny thing is like, did Woody cook? Like maybe Woody was right here. Woody might have been right.
Why are you booing me? I'm right.
Yes. I think Adams is fine. Like he had a bad week 1. I think he's a replacement level player. Malachi Moore, the only issue you had with him in the summer, like the one big issue was, I didn't love some of the angles he took. I think the tackling is still going to need to be improved upon, which is currently a Tony Adams issue, but the ceiling is just so much higher with Malachi Moore out there. Like if you're going to have the same issues, whether it's Adams or Moore, you might as well play Moore. But the Gipson move, the Lazard move, like all of that points to me that this coaching staff is not willing, or is not, they're not willing to die on the sword of let's just stick to our guns and say, all right, we made this decision. We're going to stick by this and ride it until it derails the entire season. They saw that happen in week 1. The Gipson fumbles cost them that game. They made the decision to change, the punt returner. And now we'll see who's going to be moving forward, because that's a really interesting conversation for me is it going to be Jamal Pritchett? I think the moves they've made this week kind of indicate it probably will not be.
Here's the thing I like. We'll get to a couple comments I want to get to, but I have one more point kind of on this. the difference between Aaron Glenn and Robert Saleh, and honestly, we have a lot of Yankees fans in chat, Saleh is kind of an Aaron Boone kind of guy in this way. Look at how Brandon Stevens and Xavier Gipson were dealt with. Brandon Stevens didn't play that well, but we've seen a lot of good things from him. We believe in him, which for a starting quarterback who just played poorly, like we don't think he's particularly good anyway, but I think that's an appropriate way to handle talking to a starting cornerback who performed as poorly as Brandon Stevens did, that you can't just cut because of his money. Well, I think that's a good way to handle it. Like not saying he played well or anything like that, but we think he can be better. We saw some okay things. I have no problem with that. Xavier Gipson, game-losing mistake. You can't do that. You're gone. What Robert Saleh would do, and what Boone does a little bit, I keep bringing up the parallels because I think they make a lot of sense here, is he would say, oh, not only did they not make the mistakes that Aaron Glenn said they made, but actually they're playing really well, and you guys just don't see it. That was the problem that I had with a lot of Robert Saleh things, which was not only can we not discipline guys and have true accountability, Rodgers factor or not, it was actually the guys you think are playing badly, they're actually playing better than you think they are. You're actually just dumb. They're actually playing fine. That's what drove people crazy, I think. And Aaron Glenn is not playing with this. Zachary Berner says really quick, we did sign Isaiah Williams to help out. Yep. Isaiah Williams, former Illinois receiver. I remember him being okay as a prospect a couple of years ago. He was on the Bengals practice squad. He's now on the Jets. He seems like the natural replacement for.
And there's the Lions connection because he signed with the Lions as an undrafted free agent last year. So obviously Aaron Glenn, Tanner Engstrand, the Lions guys they brought over, they have experience with Isaiah Williams. Considering the fact that they signed him to the 53, obviously they had to do so because he was on the Bengals practice squad. That would suggest to me that he is probably going to be your punt returner this week. And honestly, given the fact that Quinnen Williams had the hamstring injury, which is very unfortunate, as I see my kitten waking up in the background. Hi, buddy.
The official Jet Press cat back there.
That's the second official. The official Jet Press cat is somewhere else. I don't know where he is. This is the second one. But I didn't even know he was there. But yeah, considering the fact that Quinnen Williams was dealing with the hamstring injury, we might see Williams do both. And I'm sure you were about to get to these, but as Austrian Jet fans said in chat as well, they just signed Keelan Robinson, who was a 5th-round pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars last year, former Alabama and Texas running back. He's signed to the practice squad. He's an option. He also said that Arian Smith, Isaiah Davis are other options. Absolutely. What I fully expect to happen is the Jets will have an open competition essentially this week in practice. And whoever emerges as the guy, my guess is going to be Isaiah Williams. I would think he would be the guy that's probably at least returning punts. Maybe they go Arian Smith and Isaiah Davis returning kicks. But I don't think Davis did any punt returning in the summer. I think Arian Smith might have, but I would assume.
Seems like a guy who's got a great just style for being a return because he's just so fast.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that you want to have speed back there. It's just you want to make sure he can hold on to the ball. Like that is the biggest thing with him.
He's so small, you get hit like those big kick return collisions. They're lessened now by the new returns, but still.
A guy who had drop concerns and still struggles to make contested catches scares me as a return man. But hey, I guess that was Xavier Gipson as well. Also, a fun fact about that, I mentioned this right before we started the show, Mike. There have been 2 players in NFL history named Isaiah Williams, and assuming this one does play for the Jets, they will have both played for the Jets. The other one was an offensive lineman who played a couple of games with the Jets a few years ago. So
we had that with Malachi, where the Jets had all the Malachis or something.
Yeah, except Malachi Dupree. They had Malachi Corley, Malachi Moore. Yeah, that's it.
One of them didn't work out.
For a period of time, they had Bryce Huff, Bryce Hall, Bryce Hager.
Zachary Berner. When you asked Saleh about punishing a player, he said you want me to make them do push-ups? Question mark.
Yeah,
soft. Saleh was. When things are going good, and it's easy to say this about anybody really in any field, but when things are going good, Robert Saleh is such a cool coach and such a good guy to be around. He wasn't great at crisis management number 1, and then you throw in New York crisis management number 2, and then Aaron Rodgers and everything like that. Nobody could have handled last year well, but he certainly was kind of made things worse, I thought, between last year and 2023 a little bit. Aaron Glenn might struggle to hold people accountable in that sort of environment. So I'm glad that things are gone and things are a little bit more reset to normal right now. But this is certainly a better start in that front than anything we saw from, because even when the big thing we preached for accountability wise for a while with Saleh was Zach Wilson. And it seemed like he really kind of gave in to basically outside pressures when he finally made the decision we're going to bench Zach. early on. It was just like, okay, fine, I'll put Mike White in. Fine, just shut up, leave me alone. So because of that, I think Aaron Glenn, this doesn't seem like Aaron Glenn's caving to people, and people are saying cut Xavier Gipson, but I don't think that's why Aaron Glenn got rid of him. I think Aaron Glenn got rid of him because this is his team, and he didn't want Xavier Gipson on it after he soiled himself in week 1.
You love that phrase. You say that phrase a lot.
it's
a funny
good turn of phrase, man.
It is. Yeah. Look, you hit the nail on the head again. It's an encouraging start. There's no way for us to know right now if Aaron Glenn is going to be a successful long-term coach for the Jets, but I don't know if you can be anything other than encouraged based on that week 1 performance. Obviously, we talked about the offensive coaching staff after the game on Sunday when we did our post-game stream. But even with Aaron Glenn, like, I don't know how he's going to handle adversity. That's going to be the big test. It's like, hey, man, if the Jets start 0-4 or 0-3, which is totally very possible looking at this schedule, how does he handle that? How do you handle adversity? It's the same thing when happened with the Lions in their first year under Dan Campbell. They were 3-13-1, I believe, right? Like,
I think they lost like their first 11 or something.
Yeah,
like that. It was not good.
Finding a way to continue to get the players to buy in, to preach accountability, and then practice it as well. That is going to be the biggest challenge for Aaron Glenn this season, because for as much, as much positive takeaways as there were from week 1 and as encouraged as we are, the Jets aren't winning 12 games this year. They are likely going to lose more games than they win. So you have to keep the players bought in. And I think that'll be the biggest challenge that he faces throughout the season. But at least the little things along the way, the preaching accountability and then actually practicing it, this has been an encouraging start for Aaron Glenn.
Brian Sternbeck, Salo would have completely lost the locker room if he didn't bench Zach the first time. Yeah,
that it wasn't even as much so like outside pressure. It was internal pressure. It was the locker room was ready to revolt.
They despise. I've never seen that.
Yeah,
I glossed over it at the time. I didn't think it was a big deal, but the Mike effing White t-shirts, looking back on, like, man, they were just like, screw this guy.
It is pretty fun. It's more than the fact that it's like, oh, this is your backup quarterback. It's the fact that your starting quarterback is the number 2 overall pick, who
a year and a half in
his career.
Not even because he missed games the first year because he got hurt. So
you're still claiming that you're building around that this is the guy. Like
everybody was like,
yes.
Nah, nope.
Yes, it is kind of crazy.
So let's go and kind of wrap up week 1 here.
Let's do it, Mike.
Justin has a couple handy dandy stats that emerged that I think can really tell a pretty good picture of what happened in week 1, including one that really blew my mind that Justin will get into.
You are avoiding saying the name of the segment.
Absolutely, I am.
Well, is there a reason for that?
Because I don't like it.
This is the return for those who have been following us. I think we debuted this last year, maybe, or might have been.
We did, yes.
I don't know. We debuted it last year. The return of the gangrene stat machine, otherwise known as the GGSM.
That just sounds like something that would be in like a Looney Tunes cartoon. It's like Acme brand gangrene stat machine.
I think it sounds like something different, but I'm happy to be bringing it back.
Oh, good Lord! All right,
we have the Woodies, Mike. We gotta bring back the.
Well, for crying out loud, Justin.
But the first GGSM segment we are gonna do. There's a few stats I got here pulled up from that I posted on Twitter. The first one I want to talk about, Mike, is somebody that is getting a lot of love over the last couple of days, and it is absolutely deserved. Let's talk about Armanu Membou. Because
let's talk about Armanu Membou,
what
shall we?
A freaking debut, man. And I got to update this because this isn't even entirely accurate, the stat I'm showing on the screen. And it is accurate, but it's even more, like what he did is even more impressive than what is here.
We got stat 1.5 here. We got upgraded stat.
Pretty much, yeah. So what I wrote here, this was Armanu Membou, his PFF. He was PFF's highest graded offensive tackle through the 1 p.m. slate of games. The update on that is that Armanu Membou was the NFL's highest graded offensive lineman. Any of the offensive tackle, guard, center, the highest graded offensive lineman by Pro Football Focus this year. And then shout out Zach Rosenblatt, who compiled this data. He posted this on Twitter. Going back to at least 2006, which is, I believe, when PFF grading started, like weekly PFF grading started.
That far back.
Armanu Membou has the highest debut grade for a rookie offensive lineman in PFF history.
Wow, almost 20 years of data. Armanu Membou number 1.
In the PFF era since 2006, no rookie offensive lineman has graded out higher in their debut than Armanu Membou. That is bonkers, especially considering the fact that he was going up against TJ Watt, one of the 5 best edge rushers. That's probably underselling it.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, future Hall of Famer.
Cam Hayward, Hall of Famer.
Yep, Cam Hayward, Hall of Famer. Alex Highsmith, very good player. Like this is as impressive of a debut for any Jets player that I can remember. He allowed 0 pressures on 25 pass block snaps. His 90.3 run block grade was not only, I believe, like second, I think, among offensive linemen this week. It was the second best run blocking grade for a rookie offensive lineman in their debut, behind only Lane Johnson, since going back to 2006 again. So Lane Johnson was the only rookie offensive lineman who had a higher PFF run block grade in their NFL debut. I don't know what else you could say. I mean, I would like to shout this out too. It's not like this is an Armanu Membou stat, and he's awesome. It's also a Jets offensive coaching staff, because I thought the coaching staff did everything they possibly could to put him in a situation to succeed in week 1. The offensive game plan that they deployed, Tanner Engstrand, Steve Hyden, the offensive line coach, they did everything they could to mitigate TJ Watt's impact. I believe Watt was actually the Steelers' highest graded defensive player in week 1. He had 1 pressure and 3 total tackles. That's it. So even though he played well, like the analytics, or the PFF grades, I don't want to call that analytics, but because it's subjective, but the PFF grade would indicate he did well, but his impact was marginal because the Jets game planned away from him. They didn't run a single time off guard to the right. I think they did it off guard to the left 11 times. They were running away from Watt the entire game. Whenever Membou was, it was rarely a situation where Membou was left on an island alone with Watt. You had either Jeremy Ruckert there, who had a very good game, by the way, or Mason Taylor, who's dealing with an ankle injury. Both of those guys were there helping out Membou. They were chipping. They were doubling Watt when they needed to. Membou did his job, but so did the Jets offensive coaching staff.
Shout out Olu Fashanu too, who something was going on with those stats. They gave him way more pressures credited than he allowed, I think.
Him and John Simpson both graded out poorly, and they both allowed some pressure. I like watching it back. I don't know where they got.
See it.
I think it was 6 pressures they said Fashanu allowed, and I do not agree with that.
Kind of what, like 2?
I think there's a couple that were either manufactured pressures or a free rusher that they accredited to Fashanu, and I don't know. Again, with all this stuff, it's always subjective. I do think I'm a resident PFF defender, as I've always been. I think PFF's analytics and their raw data is some of the best out there. Grading is always going to be subjective, but even still with the raw data, you're going to have some subjectivity. I don't think Fashanu allowed 6 pressures, or at least what I would consider 6 pressures on Sunday.
The thing about Membou too that I liked is they did try to not have him to say, "Hey, go block TJ Watt, kid, go get him." Yeah. Which I was afraid that's what would happen after a preseason where he looked okay. He didn't look, no doubt, number 7 future All-Pro. We're like, okay, there's probably going to be some growing pains. He's probably going to allow some sacks. And I go, oh, them's the breaks. Welcome to the NFL. We didn't get any of that. No. We didn't get any of that against TJ Watt. And there were times where he had his assignment, a lot of times, was, hey, go stop TJ Watt from getting to the quarterback, which all pros struggle to do. And he was flawless with it pretty much.
Yeah, which is
I find funny because I remember watching the game and Ian Eagle said they talked to TJ Watt, his JJ Watt's brother, TJ, about if he watches film on rookie tackles because he's going against Membou. And he said, nope, doesn't really translate.
Woo.
Doesn't translate. So I said, okay.
Interesting.
If he was good, that's a pretty badass move. But no pressures. Graded highly, but the impact TJ Watt normally has on games was not there.
Yep.
Membou, obviously, he's not going to it's like Fields. He's not going to have a 90 PFF grade every week unless they just somehow fell into Anthony Munoz, which that would be awesome, but I don't think it's that necessarily. But you can't give him, if you're doing like letter grades, anything below an A-. I mean, this was
it's
phenomenal, fantastic.
It's an A+
debut.
It's an A+.
The worst is an A-. I'm giving him a straight up A. I mean,
it's an A+. I don't think you could have expected. Literally highest graded rookie offensive lineman in an NFL debut ever. How can you do better? Literally, you can't do better.
Zachary Berger, Membou got beat maybe once on that or twice on that first drive and then dominated.
Yes. There was one play where Watt beat him across his face, and that was about it. I'm actually
surprised. TJ Watt beat a guy. Wow.
Right. I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised that his PFF run block rate is as high as it was, even though he got beat across his face. Like a 90 PFF run block rate is like perfect. You didn't do anything wrong in that game. Feels a little inflated, but
Will Campbell, by the way, 2 false starts and he allowed a strip sack.
Yikes. It's
he was okay outside of that, and it's Max Crosby. But you know what?
Yeah.
If he's going against Max Crosby, Membou was going up against.
We'll take our victory laps because there were some Patriots fans taking victory laps after week 1, or not after week 1, after the preseason. Because, and this is what's crazy about it. Before we jump into our next stat here, Membou had struggles in the preseason. Like that Giants game, he got his ass whooped. Like he had a tough game. Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau was beating him as well. Like, I thought going into week 1, I'm like, all right, you're going to see some rookie growing pains for a guy like Armanu Membou, especially given what we saw in the preseason. Nope, just didn't exist. All right, next stat, Mike. Let's talk Justin Fields.
Let's talk about Mr. Justin Skylar Fields, who's I'm going to be honest, he's climbing up my Justin F power rankings.
Whoa.
You're still number 1.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Still number 1, but
you know the guy for 1 week. Relax, all right? Calm down.
I didn't even take him to dinner yet. Jeez.
I know. If he does this for a full season, believe me, he'll be ahead of me in my own rankings too. Justin Fields, his 90.4 PFF passing grade was the second highest in the NFL this week, I believe, behind only Matthew Stafford, and the highest of his entire pro career. It actually might have been the highest. I need to check on that. It might have been
was
the
it
highest.
Lamar, I think, had a higher one.
It might have even because I think when I checked it, I'll tell you right now. No, it's Stafford. Stafford higher.
Okay.
Stafford had a higher passing grade than Fields. He was at 93.8. That is
which
absurd.
Is crazy because I think Stafford. I think that's like a clone that replaced him because
yeah.
I think he's still in that hyperbaric chamber.
He hasn't been alive in like 5 years. Isn't that the other conspiracy? Like it's like Avril Lavigne.
This lizard person reptoid Matthew Stafford replacement's pretty good.
Yeah, but it was the highest PFF passing grade of his entire career. He had an 88.9% adjusted completion percentage, which is ridiculous. 119.1 passer rating, averaged nearly 10 yards per attempt. Also,
they weren't checking down and dinking and dunking with Field. No. They were letting it rip with them when they throw it.
Career best 0.68 EPA per attempt. You could argue, Mike.
For context, if you're not an EPA guy, that is ridiculoly high for a quarterback.
Incredible. That means that every time he attempted a pass, he basically gave the Jets, what is it? A little over 1 point. Or almost
0.2 is like he had a pretty good game.
Yes.
0.7 is phenomenal.
Yes. Ridiculous game from Justin Fields. You could argue, again, looking at these numbers here, watching the tape, you could argue this was the most impressive game of his entire NFL career. Like, legitimately. It is, I think, in the top 2 or 3 games that he has played at the NFL level. It is the most efficient he's probably ever been. I didn't, in my wildest dreams, would not have expected him to do this in week 1. Incredible game from Justin Fields.
Chris B with a couple things. Membou is a great road grader, and mauler, fluid and explosive, and Fields was very efficient.
He was.
Efficiency is the word that Aaron Glenn kept coming back to and asked about Justin. Efficient, and he certainly was. And I hinted at this earlier. What I thought was going to happen was like kind of the bad, because I told you I was getting kind of Rexy vibes talking about how much they were going to talk about running the ball. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I don't know if I love that. I thought it was going to be run the ball, slant flat, 5-yard curl route. That's what I thought it was going to be. They were letting it rip.
Yeah.
There were deep crossers and posts and down the sidelines, which I respect Tanner Engstrand for, because one of the criticisms I have a lot of coordinators in the league is they'll get these big, strong, like I remember Justin Herbert when he had Joe Lombardi. I'm like, he might as well have the arm of Mac Jones, pretty much. Sure. All you're going to do is just have him throw 3-yard out routes. Like, what's the point in having that? What's the point in having this crazy good athlete who can throw the ball 50 yards accurately down the field now, as we've seen that Garrett Wilson touchdown, which you could not have thrown it any better. Ball placement, everything right there. What's the point in having that arm if you don't test defenses down the field? What's the point in having a guy who's this good of an athlete if you don't use him on design runs? Tanner Engstrand really got the memo there. He said, you know what? If we win or lose, we're going to go out with a Justin Fields game plan. So everything he does well. It might work, it might not work, but this is what he does well. We're not going to go and completely have him fit my scheme or what I want to do. We're not going to make him run the Jared Goff offense. Mm-hmm. We're going to run the Justin Fields offense. And it's one game. I get it, but those results against the secondary that had Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay and Joey Porter and that front seven, those results are exceptional.
And even the stuff that he normally struggles with, like the short and intermediate accuracy, the overall ball placement, like stuff that has never been a strength of his game, I thought was phenomenal. Like there was basically one throw in the entire game that I thought the ball placement wasn't near perfect. And that was like it was his first throw, that pass on the out route to Garrett Wilson, where it was a little behind him and Wilson had to kind of fall down to catch it. That was pretty much it. Like every other throw that he had, I was like, man, this could not have been placed much better than that. The intermediate accuracy was incredible. The fact that he was able to consistently extend plays, use his legs, but not rely on them, keep his eyes downfield. And again, like there were so many times where, the defense had him dead to rights and he would slip out of a potential sack and keep his eyes downfield. And, I think of that Tyler Johnson throw where he fits it somehow right past the safety, who I think was coming up from behind Tyler Johnson. Like the velocity on that pass.
The Rucker too, I remember, where he just beat Patrick Queen. And Patrick Queen was freaking out after the play.
The Ruckert one was great too, because I thought he was maybe a tad late getting that ball to Ruckert, but the placement on it, the ball placement on that was a great catch.
So damn hard.
Yeah, it was a great catch by Ruckert, because that is a bullet that's thrown at him when he's like 5 yards in front of Fields. That's a great catch by Ruckert. But again, the ball placement on it, you have Queen coming up right behind him, right to, I believe it was Ruckert's right, fires it only where Ruckert can catch it. Like that's a dangerous pass, but it was a perfectly thrown ball. And then there's the one as well to, I believe it was Josh Reynolds in between the two Steelers linebackers who were dropped back in that cover two, sitting right in the middle of that defense in zone coverage, fires it right between them, right to Josh Reynolds. The ball placement was fantastic in this game. And you got all of the highs of Justin Fields without the associated lows. He didn't make any boneheaded mistakes. There was no plays where he even came close to turning the ball over. Like unlike Aaron Rodgers, who probably should have had a game-sealing interception to Brandon Stephens if Stephens does not fall down. And we'll talk about Stephens, unfortunately, in a moment. But Fields did not have any of those. There were none where I was like, well, he probably wishes he had that one back. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This was as good of a game as you could expect from Justin Fields. I don't expect this to be every game moving forward. But even if you get like 80% of this Justin Fields from here on out, like not only are you looking at a situation where I think the Jets win
better than Pittsburgh Justin Fields.
Absolutely.
80% of this.
Because the Steelers, I mean, they were able to kind of reel in some of the mistakes. He still had the fumble issues, but he only had one interception, I believe, with Pittsburgh in 6 starts.
Yep.
But you limited his dynamic ability. Like he became more of a game manager, which he absolutely was not in this game. Like this was as in control of a game from Justin Fields as you could have asked for in his Jets debut. Again, I don't expect this moving forward, but if you get 80% of this Justin Fields, not only are the Jets winning football games this year, you are looking at a scenario where we're going into 2026 saying, hey, look, let's keep building around Justin Fields. Let's see what he's got, because you can absolutely work with what the Jets saw in week 1.
He had, I think, 3 2-minute gotta have it scoring drives, and he led the Jets to points in 2 of them. And then there was the one at the end of the game where they weren't going to win that game anyway. But
it's an incredible game. Unfortunately, of the few stats we're going to talk about here, let's shift tone a little bit, because this one isn't going to be this is not a fun one. There was a lot of positive takeaways again from week 1, but one of the ones that we know was not is Brandon Stephens.
Grand opening, grand closing.
Stephens made his Jets debut, was targeted 7 times in week 1, allowed 5 catches, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns, was flagged.
And one of the incompletions was a dropped interception.
Yes, it was. And it was flat. And the other one, he very well could have been called for pass interference. I don't know if you remember it. He was kind of all over the receiver. I was surprised they didn't throw a flag.
Which one was that? That was
I forget who was even 2. It might have been Calvin Austin. I don't know.
Yes.
It was Calvin Austin. He was also flagged for defensive pass interference, 136.9 passer rating when targeted. Like you mentioned, he had a chance at a game-sealing interception as well. Like I don't even know. I watched it back. I still don't know how he fell down. It's one of those things where it's like it's unfortunate that he fell. He probably catches it if he doesn't fall, but it just added on to what was a disastrous game for Brandon Stephens. And the biggest concern for me, like by far the biggest concern, is not like, oh, you could just point to, oh, it's one game, whatever. Like, oh, he made a couple of mistakes. No, this is the exact same Brandon Stephens that we saw in Baltimore. Every single issue that he had with the Ravens popped up on tape in week 1. It was getting too handsy when he's at the catch point with the receiver. He had that pass interference, and I thought he could have had a second one. It is not getting your head turned around, because there was a play where I believe this was also to Calvin Austin, where he had pretty much textbook perfect coverage. It was really good coverage, but he couldn't make a play on the ball, which is
cut him, trade him off the field. They can't with that contract. You can't.
Good luck. They are stuck with him. They are stuck with Brandon Stephens for better or worse, and it's likely, at least given what we saw in week 1, for worse. But that is the biggest concern to me. It's not like these were new issues that popped up. It was, well, this guy was one of the worst cornerbacks in football last year because of these issues, because of X, Y, and Z. And we saw all of X, Y, and Z pop up that derailed his week 1 debut for the Jets. That is a really big concern for me.
Which is, again, frustrating, because we always talked about Gipson. Aaron Glenn would always say, well, he caught 700 punts in a row in practice.
Yeah.
Apparently in practice, he had a good preseason too. Apparently in practice, Brandon Stephens is always turning his head around and making good plays.
That's what they say.
And then the game happens and he can't do it. So I could get why Glenn is frustrated, because he's like, I've seen you do it. Why can't you do it when it matters? Yeah. I get why that frustrates him, but this is extremely concerning. And I'm excited to see Azareye'h Thomas. I think by the end of the year, we'll see Azareye'h Thomas. I don't think the Jets drafted him there. He was a BPA pick, but I don't think they drafted him to sit on the bench for a couple of years. But I don't think he's going to be week one and immediate CB2 on the outside. So there's going to be growing pains there. And I want Stevens to be good because athletically, he's got everything you want. Mm-hmm. He's bigger than Sauce, like muscular-wise. He's bigger than Sauce, probably as fast, great athlete, versatile. And it just doesn't, the pieces don't fit together. And you're wondering, why don't the pieces fit together? Aaron and Glenn thinks he can make the pieces fit together. I sure hope he does. But when it doesn't, this is what you get. And hold on a second. Let's go, Patriots. You get out of here right now.
Wow.
You get out of this.
Invasion.
How did you even find this, Juga?
Be gone, intruder.
Unless you just, look, if you don't like Brandon Stevens, fine. Hear us complain about Brandon Stevens. But this is what it looks like when it doesn't work. And there were high moments in Baltimore. It wasn't just this every single week in and week out.
2023, he was all right. He wasn't terrible in 2023.
It's more like what happened? Why can't you get back to that? I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but they can't afford too many more of these. And he's going to defend Stevens because this was his heat check.
Yep.
And this was his guy where like they gave him a 3-year contract because he thought, I can fix all this problem. So they're not going to go, I think, bench him in week 3.
No.
After getting a 3-year contract. But if it's like week 8 or 9 and he's still doing this, I don't really think there's a justification to have him playing over Thomas.
I just noticed, I didn't realize this during the game, but it is interesting. The Jets did not go dime package at all. A
lot of cover one.
Yeah, a lot of cover one.
Rodgers to throw it down the field.
And he didn't. He did the one time to Stevens, I guess, but like Rodgers was barely throwing the ball.
F the Jets. New England is superior in every way. What's your record there?
This guy's having a
Drake
stroke.
May look, you clown.
I mean, the Jets and Patriots are both 0-1, so we can't really talk shit right now.
Yeah, don't act like he's not. He can't talk down to us. He can talk with us.
He can talk to us. But yeah, they didn't run. I was just checking the snap counts and stuff. The only time the Jets ran a 6th defensive back was one play. Malachi Moore played 1 snap. That's it. That was it, and it was Malachi Moore. So Isaiah Oliver did not play on defense. Azareye'h Thomas did not play on defense. Quantez Stiggers did not play on defense. I wonder how much of that was just matchup because the Steelers aren't exactly loaded at wide receiver. I don't think the Jets are concerned about Ben Skoranek, although he did score a touchdown.
But that was a miscommunication, too.
Yes, it was. Well, that was a lot of their issues were miscommunication.
Brian Sternbeck, of course, J.C. Jackson was benched 5 starts into a 5-year contract. The J.C. Jackson also was.
Then the Patriots were dumb enough to trade for him. Hey, man.
He was hurt, and then there was like an open revolt where he didn't want to do anything the coaching staff wanted to do. There were other things.
It was a lot of
emotionally onto that, too.
It was a lot of attitude stuff with J.C. Jackson. And
from all accounts, Brandon Stevens is like a good guy and a hard worker. So
yeah. Hey, man, if Baltimore wants to come calling, if they need some cornerback help.
After what happened in the 4th quarter, maybe they do.
Listen, Derrick Henry fumbled in week 1. Maybe they convert Brandon Stevens back to running back because he played running back in college, and maybe they got a running back. Maybe they got Derrick Henry's future replacement. That's what they can do. Let's get back to some positive stats, though, right? We'll stick with the cornerback position for a little bit because for as much as Brandon Stevens struggled in week 1, there's another cornerback in that Jets room who we all know is great. We know this, Mike. We know this. Sauce Gardner was incredible in week 1. This was the Sauce Gardner that we have come to know. And it was even more encouraging because I don't have this stat here, but Sauce Gardner was allowed to travel with DK Metcalf. One of the one of the only times in his entire NFL career that he's been asked to shadow an opposing team's number 1 wide receiver. And it went about as well as you can expect. Like it went, knowing Sauce Gardner, I know that's always been a detraction of his games. Like, oh, he doesn't shadow opposing teams' number 1 wide receivers. It's like, well, he can do it. Like, it's not like he can't do it. He's just not asked to do it. And I think Sunday proved that. Sauce Gardner traveled with DK Metcalf. As Chris B in chat says, Sauce was excellent. Sauce Gardner, I believe, was the defender tasked with guarding DK Metcalf on 30 of 34 pass coverage snaps. He was PFF's highest graded cornerback through the 1 p.m. slate. And I should have checked this. I believe it was for the entire week as well, that he was the highest graded cornerback in the NFL this week.
I can't think of one who played better than him.
He was, in fact, by 0.1. You know who number 2 was?
Not Surtain.
No, but he had an amazing week. This guy. It has been talked about a lot.
Stingley? I don't know.
Nope. Will Johnson.
Oh, really?
He had a
Huh.
great week, Will Johnson. I still
He
amazed
should
he
not.
fell to-
The Cardinals got the steal of the
Yes, they did.
year with that guy.
Amazing he fell to 47. But yeah, Sauce Gardner, highest graded cornerback in the NFL this week, 90.3 PFF grade, including also an NFL best 90.5 coverage grade, allowed one catch.
He's just so good.
A
He's so
He's
good.
insane, dude. One catch for 11 yards on 4 targets. And do you know what that catch
Well,
was,
that was
Mike?
that weird bobbly.
It was that catch it was DK Metcalf where it deflected off Sauce, deflected off Metcalf, deflected off Andre Sisco, deflected off Jonnu Smith, and then somehow landed in Metcalf's lap while he was laying on the ground. He's like, oh, there's a football in my hands now. Look at that. I made a catch.
That shouldn't even count.
And that is an allowed catch by Sauce Gardner. It's also a pass breakup because he broke up the pass. So he gets credited with a pass breakup and a catch allowed. And also, that is the play that, if that doesn't happen, Mike, I think the Jets very possibly win that game because that is what helped set up that 60-yard Boswell field goal. Also, 2 pass breakups.
Cisco really quick too on Sauce.
Sure.
I think he should do that every year, following the best receiver on the team. Well, I get it early on because, again, that was what Salah's scheme demanded. And for most of the time here, it worked. So he didn't want to change anything. But Aaron Glenn, I think, now knows this secondary outside of Sauce. We mentioned this is not a good secondary outside of Sauce.
No. Well,
this is our transformative asset. We'll stick him on the best receiver. Worry about the rest later.
It's matchup based. Like, I don't think it's going to happen with the Bills because, I mean, their best receiver is probably Khalil Shakir, and he is the slot guy. So that's going to be a Michael Carter matchup. But, you know, maybe he spends most of the time on Keon Coleman, I guess. Like, I think Sauce is, like, that's his best matchups are against, like, bigger, even fast receiver. Like, DK Metcalf's a perfect matchup for Sauce.
Which is surprising because you'd think if he got the ball in open space, Metcalf, the tackling-wise, it's going to be a problem.
Which it was. Not against Sauce, though. Sauce didn't have a missed tackle. But, yeah, that was an issue when he did get the ball in open space because he's such a ridiculously difficult guy to bring down in open space. But Sauce does well with receivers like that because DK's advantage against other cornerbacks is usually size speed. He does not have that advantage against Sauce. Obviously, he's bulkier, right? But he's 6'4".
A little bit, yeah.
He's 6'4". Sauce is 6'3", so he doesn't have the height advantage, really. And
Sauce it's like boxing. I think Sauce got as long arms. Like,
right, and
the reach advantage is nullified.
Sauce also has long strides. He's like runs like a 4.3 something 40-yard dash, which DK does as well. The guys that Sauce, I feel like, struggles more against are like the smaller speed guys. Like a Tyreek Hill, I think, would usually get
Stephon Diggs, I remember, used to.
Stephon Diggs had his number a little bit too. Just the guys who are like shiftier route runners as opposed to like just size speed guys.
That's his Stevie Johnson.
Yeah, yes. Which maybe I mean, there's no one on the like, Khalil Shakir would sort of be that, but he's going to be a slot guy.
Who was on the Titans last year that got him?
Ridley,
yeah.
Ridley would make sense because Ridley again is one of those. He's just such a nuanced route runner. He's such a tough guy to guard. Like that makes perfect sense that Gardner would struggle. I mean, and when we say struggle, we say, you know,
allows more than one catch a game.
Right. Like the bar is set so unbelievably high that struggling is like 2 catches for 40 yards. Like that's a bad thing.
Give up touchdowns. That's how he's fine. Yeah.
Right.
Same with Stingley too. Yeah.
But in week 1,
who was working? Didn't hear anything.
Yeah. But yeah. Week 1, we saw Sauce Gardner is still Sauce Gardner. It is still an unbelievable tragedy, travesty, just embarrassment for the league that he was left off the NFL player voted top 100. That is still
that might be Tagovailoa was voted on.
That might be
Jared Goff was what, like 15?
Bo Nix was like 40 something. Bo Nix, who by the way, Bo Nix was PFF's lowest graded quarterback in week 1. So there you go, man. Yeah, just that might be the most embarrassing omission from that list that I've ever seen. Like it's hilarious that a guy who you could very well make an argument is the best player at a premium position in the NFL was not on the top 100 list.
I'll give you Surtain, but he can't be lower than 2 or 3.
No, there's no way you could argue he is worse than anybody not named Pat Surtain or Derek Stingley. It depends on what you value. Like, I think Sauce Gardner is the best.
And the Stingley thing is totally just, are you an INT guy or a low catches guy?
With all 3 of them, it's what you value. Because I think, well, not even I think. Through 3 years, Sauce Gardner is the best cornerback, like cover corner in the NFL over the last 3 years. If you want to argue it's Surtain, it's because 1, he does get some more takeaways. He's got better ball skills than Sauce Gardner. 2, he is an incredible tackler. Like maybe the best tackling cornerback in the NFL. And that is obviously not a strength of Sauce Gardner's game. Derek Stingley, it's because you get the interceptions. But if you're going pure cover corner, I think it's Sauce Gardner.
Maybe I'm forgetting. Like, was Revis an amazing tackler? I don't think he was. I think he was
better
okay,
than
right?
Sauce. He was better than Sauce. He was
Better than
definitely.
Sauce, but I don't remember him being like Champ Bailey where he destroyed
No,
people.
he had a rep of being a lot more physical than Sauce because he would play man coverage all the time and just lock up dudes. Like, and also, again, he had a rep of doing that because he was asked to guard opposing teams' number one receivers every single game, which Sauce Gardner has not been. Obviously, he can, as we just saw it. He can do that. But I hope now, if he's allowed to do that this year, and he's, we get to the week 3 is the Bucks, right? That's what they play week 3.
Yep.
So if he's guarding Mike Evans in that game, which I assume he will be, and he shuts him down, there you go. Like that.
Brandon Stevens on Emeka Egbuka, I don't think will go.
Well, Ibuka's slot. Is he playing the slot for them or no, Ibuka?
I think they move him around.
I actually want to see in week
1. I think
1.
they did.
That actually is immediately concerning to me. So let me see. Is he? Yeah, he played half in the slot, half at wide. All right. So I mean, Michael Carter will be on him half the time. The other half of the time, you'll pray. And Michael Carter wasn't particularly good in week 1 anyway.
Yeah, I'm worried about that now because I thought Carter would be back to why he got the contract. Michael Carter now.
One game, small sample size. I think his biggest issue was just he missed the tackle in open space. I think it was against. I forget who it was against. It was against Calvin Austin. Yeah. But one player. We'll do one more GGSM segment, Gangrene Snap Machine segment. One other player on this Jets defense who we already know he's amazing, Mike. We already know he's incredible. We know he's all pro. He was the only Jets player named to the NFL top 100.
Sauce Gardner again.
No, it's a different guy. We're talking about Quinnen Williams because Sunday, much like it was arguably the best game of Justin Fields' career, you could argue this was one of the best games that Quinnen Williams has ever played in the NFL, which is crazy to say about a guy who has been a former first-team All-Pro. He's made 3 Pro Bowls in a row, I believe.
I keep thinking back to that Miami game where he stiff-armed Tyreek, I think it was.
Yeah.
That one. And I think he got that was the one where I remember this is why PFF grades are sometimes sketchy for me because he got a 62 or something like that. And Jets fans bully PFF. They're like, oh, we made a mistake. He's actually an 83. I'm like, that's a pretty big
I think it was like a 67.
swing there, man.
Yeah, I think it was like a 67 and they bumped it up to an 83 or something.
Yeah, I'm like that. You can't switch that much, right?
It is. Well, what happens, my argument about PFF grades is they are always much more accurate over a large sample size, which goes for any stats and grading, right? Because there's only a certain amount of plays that a player will play in a game. So if 1 or 2 grades they mess up, right, that they probably should have graded them higher or lower, it's going to significantly impact that one game, right? But over a season, it'll accumulate and be more accurate. That's so it's and I know that kind of defeats the purpose of what we're doing here, but individual weekly PFF grades aren't as accurate. That being said, Quinnen Williams,
you're at 93. That's pretty accurate.
That said, the eye test, quote unquote, definitely passes the vibe check here. But Williams' 92 PFF grade in week 1 was the second highest that he's ever had in a game in his NFL career. His 93 PFF 93 is insane. I don't know, for those who aren't that up to that keen about PFF grades and how they work, 93 is absurd. That is one of the highest grades that you can get in a single week.
For season grades, you'll be lucky if there's 2 or 3 players that average grades over 90.
Which, by the way, from 2022 to 2023, Quinnen Williams had a 90 plus grade in 2022 and 2023. Last year was a step back.
As it was for everybody. So.
Right. 93 PFF run defense grade, 5 pressures, 5 run stops, and a sack. And he played 77% of the Jets defensive snaps. I went back and over the last 4 years under Robert Saleh, Quinnen Williams has averaged 64% of snaps per season.
And even then, Saleh barely wanted to do that. Remember, I think he was shouting at, Aaron Whitecott in one game?
For what, playing Quinnen?
I think he was upset because a big play happened when he was off the field. And then,
maybe, yes. I think I do vaguely remember that.
From there on, he played 60%.
Yep.
Now, part of it, I think, is because Aaron Glenn, I think he doesn't want to do what Saleh's doing. I think he also realizes, as improved as the defensive tackle room is, after acquiring Harrison Phillips and acquiring Jawan Briggs, who also I thought played pretty well when he was on. I think it's like Sauce, where he goes, all right, the unit may not be great, but we got one great champion prize horse we're gonna ride here.
Yep.
And that's Quinnen. I would be doing myself a disservice if in a close game against Aaron Rodgers, I take him out for Jawan Briggs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's going to play 80% of snaps every single week, because that's even among the best interior defensive linemen, that is pretty uncommonly high for a guy like that. But I'm not going to be opposed to something like this every week. If this is the Quinnen you're getting, then it'd be stupid to take him off.
checking what Dexter Lawrence last year played 73% of snaps as a nose tackle. That's crazy.
That's high for a nose
Dude,
tackle.
2022, he played 82% of the Giants' defensive snaps. That's insane, dude. That is crazy.
Juga, really quick, the Patriots guy, unbiased take. Do you think the Jets will beat the Pats once or twice this year? I think they'll split.
Yeah, split has been like
they win in New York, lose in New England.
It's so early to say because I don't want to overreact from week one, but the Jets obviously looked a lot better than the Patriots going into week one. But going into the season, I said Patriots would be the second best team in the division. So I don't want to immediately change that take based on one game. But we'll see. If the Jets come out against the Bills, man, and we'll talk about this in a moment, I think they absolutely have a chance to beat Buffalo. If they come out with a similar game plan and they execute it the same way they did and they don't have stupid turnovers, I think they could beat Buffalo. And if they do, I don't know, man. I might have a very different take about the Jets. I don't want to get ahead of myself. They also could come out and lay an absolute egg and Justin Fields throws 4 interceptions. And then I'm like, yeah, they're going to win 3 games this year. It's possible. But yeah, we'll stick with, 1-1. Before we there's another comment here I want to get to, but really quick. One other thing I wanted to add to this. I think this is, obviously this is a Quinnen Williams stat and it's a proof of how amazing he is. I think this is also proof that Darren Muji cooked with that Harrison Phillips trade, dude. Like that was, again, this is another situation of the regime realizing a mistake that was made in the offseason. They went very cheap at defensive tackle. They brought in Derek Nani. They were hoping that he can be that run-stuffing one tech because, look, I get why they thought that. He has 7 years of experience doing that in Kansas City, even if it wasn't always
with a championship team.
Right, even if it wasn't always at a super high level, right? He was a very important part of a championship-winning defense for years. I get why they thought he could do that. They realized he stunk. He was absolutely terrible this summer.
From the jump.
Probably the worst defensive tackle on the roster, and that's saying a lot. So I was going to say they cut him, but actually they traded him, which is amazing. They got something for him, but they cut their losses with him, and they realized that Jay Tufele and Byron Coward got hurt. He's not going to play this year, but they realized the internal guys they had weren't doing the job. So they traded for Harrison Phillips, who, he was very quiet on Sunday. There was not much on the stat sheet, but I think just his presence alone is going to open up so many opportunities for Quinnen Williams to get one-on-one reps.
He's a quiet player. He's not going to be
games. Yep.
He's not going to be like a 10-sack guy. He's not going to be a crazy flashy athlete, but he plugs up gaps, can pick up a scheme like that. Everybody loves him in the locker room. The kind of guy where he's not necessarily like a defense changing player, but a lot of championship teams on defense have a guy like him.
Yes.
They have. Yeah, there's a lot of Harrison Phillips going around the Kansas Cities and New England's.
The dirty work
of yesteryear.
He does the dirty work. It's the dirty work. That is what Harrison Phillips is to a T.
I'm the trash man, as Frank Reynolds would say.
Yes.
It's always sunny. I throw trash all over the room.
Yes.
I start eating garbage.
Really, all right. Now I'm imagining Harrison Phillips with like Danny DeVito's.
And Andre the Giant singlet.
Oh goodness.
Well, because the guy threw sand in people's eyes.
I don't know. That's a
great episode.
I haven't seen it. I don't know. Anyway, go on.
So Zachary Burns, you guys talk about Will McDonald yet? He might be a star, and thanks Bill Belichick for trading out giving us Will McDonald and not Broderick Jones.
You don't know that. He could be referring to Krosky Merritt. You don't know that.
So the thing about old Bill McDonald here is, well, as good as he was, I find myself going back and forth because Will McDonald's a phenomenal pass rusher. I think that is set in stone. How much of this is the Jets cooked and Quinnen looks good? How much of that is, man, this Steelers offensive line is not very good at all.
Well, we know Broderick Jones.
They've used some picks. Broderick Jones, Fautanu. They've used a lot of assets, for lack of a better word.
No, they've invested a lot.
But, what do you feel more confident right now? Fashanu and Membou or Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu?
Don't set it's not even fair. That's not a fair comparison.
Exactly. So because of that, I want to temper the expectations a little bit, but also Broderick Jones got better near the end of last year. You're like, all right, he looks like a real tackle. And then Will McDonald just completely busted him open.
Yep. Will McDonald looked like Will McDonald. I have no big takeaways on him. He is an excellent pass rusher. He is the best pass rushing edge rusher that is on this team and probably one of the best pure pass rushers in the entire AFC. The run defense I think is still,
and I still think he's playing out of position because they have him as his hand in the dirt.
Yeah. The run defense I think is never going to be a strength, but if he's at least passable in that area, like again, single game PFF grades, take it with a grain of salt. 85.9 pass rush grade. He had three total pressures, 2 sacks, had that QB hit, also 2 run stops, but 46.2 run defense grade. But I will say
it's better than 30,
better than last year, and didn't miss a tackle. So that's already he had missed 33% of his tackles last year.
And he was part of a Jets unit that I think defended the run really well.
Yes. So that already an improvement, I would say. But the other guy I would want to, like, we didn't, there's no stats here that I have from him, but Jermaine Johnson looked awesome, dude. And there's going to be guys that we didn't get to talk. Like, I wanted to talk about Breece Hall. We're not really going to get to talk about him. I thought he looked amazing as well. Just shout him out. But if we're on the subject of edge rushers really quick, Jermaine Johnson looked awesome. You never know how an edge rusher is going to look in their first game back from a torn Achilles. I thought he looked like, I don't even want to say the Jermaine of old. I thought he looked even better, maybe the Jermaine of old. He had 4 pressures in that game, had a run stop too, 73.1 PFF grade. I mean, I know the Jets defensive line depth is still not great. Like, Michael Clemens is a 0. Tyler Barron was a 0 in that game. Like,
I'm surprised he got in.
I'm also surprised he was active. But
and he played.
It's very clear that the Jets have 3 high-level defensive linemen up front on that defense. And, week 1 very much proved that, which is what we already thought.
So let's go and talk in the waning minutes of this show about week 2 against the Buffalo Bills.
Let's do it.
I'm going to immediately start with why I'm concerned about Justin Fields and bring the tone right back down to being negative again. Because part of me wants to say, man, this defense looked terrible against Baltimore. Now, I know they won thanks to Why do the Ravens always do this?
I know, man. I don't know.
They're always good every year, but they always do this.
And part of me is like, is it just luck? Is it just shit luck?
I think it's just luck.
People will point to be like, oh, John Harbaugh's always been a choker. It's like, what did John Harbaugh do? Like, what did he do?
How is that John Harbaugh's fault?
Did John Harbaugh make
Derrick Henry never fumbles?
That was a cartoonish fumble from Derrick Henry.
He never fumbles.
It also isn't Lamar Jackson's fault, who scored 40 points with the Ravens. Like, whose fault is it?
I think as them and Allen try to get to the Super Bowl, I think Baltimore is never going to beat Buffalo. Buffalo is never going to beat Kansas City, so they just need to hope that they never run into those 2 teams.
Right.
Some way, somehow. Maybe the Ravens beat Kansas City because they've beaten them in the past.
Yep.
Maybe the Bills got to hope for Baltimore again because they just can't. I don't know what it is about those teams.
Hey, man, they haven't run into Justin Fields and the Jets, though.
So, but anyway, why I'm a little concerned, and again, I think Fields will play better than he did with Chicago or kind of on par with Pittsburgh, is the Steelers have practiced for the entire year against Aaron Rodgers, who's stylistically not exactly 1-to-1 with Justin Fields. Buffalo's defense plays against Josh Allen, who is bigger than Justin Fields, who has a stronger arm than Justin Fields, who might be a better runner than Justin Fields, actually, if you could, in terms of when he chooses to run and finding the end zone. So I think that defense is used to seeing guys who are physically like Justin Fields, so that the shock and awe factor that you get when you first see him for the first time. Like, remember when he was starting off in Chicago when he was running for 200 yards a game? Or why whenever Lamar Jackson plays an NFC team, doesn't see him all the time, he cooks them because they're just not used to seeing him. I think that factor might get neutralized a little bit with Buffalo. And I think the defense, while I think the defense will play pretty well against the Bills offensive line that is good, but maybe a little overrated. I think it's average. I think it's right in the middle of the pack. Josh Allen is getting to the point now. Like, he would struggle against Robert Saleh legitimately sometimes. I think he's getting to the point now where even though he got that completely fake, ridiculous MVP that he shouldn't have had, he's getting to the point where some things just don't matter. And he could just flip a switch and just start cooking you. And I'm not afraid of him necessarily going at Sauce Gardner, but against this secondary, against Brandon Stevens and Andre Sisco and Tony Adams, this is not the get-right game for this secondary because Allen is ascending right now. And I think this is probably, throughout his career, going to be the best version of Allen that we see.
I just shuddered because I imagined the thought of Tony Adams trying to tackle Josh Allen in open space. And
oh my God.
It's not going to happen, man. It's not going to happen.
It just won't. Just let him score.
The defensive miscommunications need to be cleaned up. Like the I guess if you want to say the glass half full take from week 1, other than Stevens getting cooked, was many of the issues with the defense were just miscommunications. It was busted coverage in
Game
zone.
one, new scheme, new everything.
Yeah, busted coverage in zone where I don't know if it was like Stevens or Jamie and Sherwood or whoever. It was a couple of plays where guys were just in the same spot and nobody was guarding the receivers. Like that it was all zone coverage bust. And again, I love the transparency from Aaron Glenn, because he talked about this after the game where he said exactly that. It was like, I thought we did good. In man, we held our own, but zone coverage, there were some busts. And that's fixable. That's absolutely fixable. So if you're looking at the glass half full side of this, it's okay if they fix that stuff. I'm not particularly concerned about this Bills receiving core cooking them. Like Josh Palmer is fine. I mean, Josh Palmer, he's good. He would probably cook Brandon Stevens, but like Keon Coleman doesn't.
There's a lot of guys that cook Brandon Stevens.
Yeah, Keon Coleman doesn't necessarily scare me. Khalil Shakir is a very good player, but
it all depends on who Sauce gets.
Right. Well,
also Keon Coleman doesn't scare me. Keon Coleman on Brandon Stevens.
Oh God,
that might scare me.
And I talk so much shit about Keon Coleman too.
Like, and then now he's pretty good. You're like, oh man,
he's fine. He's
Didn't
still
he have 120 yards last week.
He's fine. He had one like ridiculously lucky catch, like the touchdown catch. Like he's fine. That was a DK Metcalf catch where it was like,
okay, all right.
I'm not ready to.
Devon Baker's on the Eagles practice squad, by the way.
Yeah. I've admitted defeat on that one. I'm not going to admit defeat on the Keon Coleman one yet. Or give it some more time. Look, I'm not okay. He's been better than I thought he was going to be. I'm still not sold on him being like a good NFL receiver.
I don't think he's like a number one, but
but he's a useful player right now for the Bills. He still has the similar flaws that I thought he did at Florida State, but he does enough good things right that he's a useful player. But the glass half empty thought here is, yeah, I mean, one of the big things this Jets defense struggled with was discipline when it comes to tackles, when it comes to, again, discipline and zone coverage. And Josh Allen tortures defenses that deal with discipline issues. He will destroy you if you are not a disciplined defense.
Not only is he so much better with getting it out, because they kind of bred the F at 40-yard ball out of him there. They said, all right, just take the 8-yard out. Yeah. But if he sees an opening, he'll just say, you know what, I can pick. I'm going to run or pass. He has the ability. I've seen him do that. I could see him thinking, hey, run or pass. I can take him either way. And that ability, Aaron Rodgers at this point, because he can't move, doesn't have that ability, and he still threw 4 touchdowns against them.
The Jets had 4 sacks on Rodgers. They were able to get pretty consistent pressure. I don't know if any of those 4 sacks are sacks on Josh Allen. I could not help by watching that game being like, oh man, Rodgers is so.
Josh Allen is like the same size as Will McDonald. Like,
yeah, he's bigger. Depends on what they list.
That'll be tough.
If now McDonald's like 240 something. Like I think he would play at like 236, right? Josh Allen is 240 something. No.
I think he's listed at like 237 or something.
Josh Allen is, wow, you nailed it exactly. He's 6'5", 237, which
wow, that's a good guess.
6'5", 237 is bigger than 2024 Will McDonald. I don't know what they're calling him now, what he's listed at now, but he's bigger than him. And he's just more muscular. Like he's thicker. Like, I don't know. There's no other way of saying it. He's thicker. He's got more girth.
He's very strong and glistening
he's got more girth.
He takes the snap and rolls, and you see his chiseled pecs.
Okay, all right. No,
I'm making fun of you.
All right, whoa. No,
I'm making fun of you.
No one said that. You went off on your own tangent.
That's what you were doing. That's what you were doing, essentially.
He's built. He's big. He's a big man. He's girthy. He's bigger. He's bigger than Will McDonald.
Yes, that's if you take anything away from that.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough to you got to be disciplined with your tackle attempts, with your sack attempts in the backfield. And that's one big concern for me. But the other glass half full takeaway here, the path forward for the Jets to beat this Bills team, because I think it's possible. Obviously not in a like any given Sunday scenario. I think there's absolutely like an actual way where the Jets can beat this team, can beat the Bills and be even. I don't even know about the better team, but there's a very clear game plan, and it's basically just executing a similar game plan to what you just did in Week 1. You need to control time of possession. You need to make sure that the ball is not in or is out of Josh Allen's hands as much as you could possibly, manage. If you are
throw 10 times, I want 9-minute drives.
Yeah. If you are doubling the Bills in time of possession, like the Jets did with the Steelers in Week 1, you have a chance to win this game. Like, you need to grind it out in the ground game. You just saw the blueprint. The Ravens torched the Bills' run defense. The Bills' run defense looked like garbage against Derrick Henry.
Breece Hall is not Derrick Henry, but
in Week 1, he sure as hell looked pretty great. Like, he's not Derrick Henry, but he looked awesome in Week 1. And if that is the Breece Hall they are getting this season, then absolutely, you're not trading him for sure. And he's going to be such an important part of this offense. So that's number one. You are leaning on Breece Hall. You are leaning on this offensive line, and you're saying, look, you just went out there and kicked the asses of that Steelers D-line. If you could do it to them, you could absolutely do the
Buffalo's
same to this Bills
defensive line. I mean, Ed Oliver is
He's
above
great.
average.
Ed
Joey
Oliver's really
Bosa is
good.
looking very old.
Yeah.
Greg Russo, average. The
They have a lot of
linebacking
depth.
core is all beat up.
Yeah.
The
They
fact
have a
that
lot
they
of
did that against Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
who I think is leaps better in terms of just the front seven,
Yeah.
that gives me at least some sort of reassurance that they can do it again against the Bills. Because Baltimore did it. Now, again, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, totally different calculus. But how many quarterbacks running the ball outside of Lamar and Josh Allen and maybe Jalen Hurts can hold a candle right now to Justin Fields? So I think the blueprint is there.
And I also thought Fields left a lot of yards on the field within the ground game in week 1. Like, I thought there were a few option plays where he absolutely made the wrong decision. There was one, I forget where it was, but I saw clips of it on Twitter and I was like, absolutely, I remember that from the game, where he has a touchdown probably if he keeps it and he hands it off to Brees instead. Like, I think fixing up that stuff, which is surprising because he is obviously a very experienced and talented option quarterback who has been making option decisions since he was in college. So, I think that's the blueprint for this team. And I think there is a path forward. Now they're fighting a significant talent gap. The Bills are a much better team than this Jets team. They're extremely talented and they're, contrary to what some might say, very well coached. John McDermott is an excellent head coach and they have a very good coaching staff.
You don't luck into 13-4 every year.
Right. But what we saw in week 1 was a well-coached, well-oiled machine, both on, I wouldn't say on defense, but 100% on offense. And I think the defensive woes are correctable outside of Brandon Stevens being bad. I'm less confident that one will be corrected. And again, the tackling, also less confident there. But I think there's a path. I'm not going to predict it if we're about to do our predictions in a second. I will not predict a Jets win, but would not be shocked if come Sunday we're doing our post-game live stream and we're talking about, the first statement win of the Aaron Glenn era and how this new Jets team has arrived. A lot of it is going to rely on Justin Fields. If Justin Fields plays like he did in week 1 and the ground game is working, they absolutely can win that game. But if Justin Fields regresses and becomes more of the Fields we expected to see this year, which is some highs, but also a lot of lows mixed in, and if he's turning the ball over, then I find it hard to believe. Like, if the Jets lose the turnover battle, they're not beating the Bills. They have to win the turnover battle.
Chris B would love to see Arian Smith versus Buffalo. I don't think you're going to see Arian Smith in the offense for a couple weeks.
He got, I don't know how many snaps he played, but I saw him out there a few times. Like, I think just him being out there is a threat to defense because you have to keep he played 6 snaps, right? He keeps defenses honest. Like, and that one of these days, they're going to run the ball 7 consecutive times. They're going to throw Arian Smith out there. They're going to go a play action shot play to Arian Smith, and he's either going to draw pass interference or he's going to drop a deep pass. But, he's going to be out there.
The one thing that surprised me that the Steelers didn't do this week, and I don't know if the Bills will be able to implement it better, is I thought they were just going to stick Jalen Ramsey on Garrett Wilson for most of the game and just bracket him and let anybody else but Garrett Wilson try to make plays. They still got Garrett Wilson the ball. 7 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. That's a fantastic Garrett Wilson game. McDermott's a good defensive coach. I think the cornerbacks are much worse for the Bills. I don't think they'll be as capable of doing that.
They have 2.
But also, I think you need to if the Jets go downfield, they're pretty much going to throw to Garrett Wilson at this point. They need to show that they trust Arian Smith as a downfield weapon before defenses really take him seriously.
Wilson played 41 snaps out wide, 23 in the slot in week 1. So there's a healthy mix of both. I think it's very obvious. Like, to me, I think it's clear what their game plan is for, Buffalo's game plan is. When he's out wide, it's Christian Benford. When he's in the slot, it's Taron Johnson. I don't think Tre'Davious White is going to guard Garrett Wilson for a single snap in that game. And if he is,
the fact he's still playing, he was such a good player, but man, he is
not at this stage.
Rough sledding, man. All right, prediction time.
All right, I'll say it's so weird because given week 1, I want to be like it's a high scoring game, which is crazy because who would have thought that? I'll say 28 to 20, 28-20. 28-20, Bills win. Jets offense comes back down to earth a little bit. I think Fields has one of those silly fumbles where he tries to do too much and he puts the ball on the ground, and then that ends up kind of derailing maybe like a late Jets comeback attempt. That's my prediction.
I'm going to say 27-23 Bills also. I think honestly, we might see a repeat of last week where Fields makes some plays. Breece Hall's looking pretty good. Offensive line's holding their own. And then some way, somehow they get put in a position where Josh Allen's going to do a 2-minute drill down the field, and he does it because he's just if it's a shootout between Justin Fields and Josh Allen, who are you taking?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And now they actually have probably a competent kicker in there in Matt Prater. We can't rely on Tyler Bass missing kicks. Chris said,
V, 24-21, Jets win.
I love it, man. That first Aaron Glenn hit, that first Aaron Glenn win, man, it's gonna hit. It's gonna hit. I don't know if it's gonna be this week.
He got, for a schedule that's not crazy hard, man. They got a tough draw.
The start is really tough. Yeah, at the end of the season's a lot easier. Which, you know what, I don't mind that, because I want to see this team grow as the year goes on. I think they're going to get better.
So it's not going to be like an Adam Gase thing where they were 1-8 and then at the end of the year just won a bunch of meaningless.
No, I think it's a very different situation. You know, I think I don't really believe in the concept of momentum carrying over year to year. I don't think if the Jets win 4 of their last 5 games that really means anything about their 2026, outlook. But I think this Jets team is going to get better as the season goes on, and I think we're going to see them play their best football later in the year. And given what we saw in Week 1, that's very encouraging. Like, I don't want to keep saying that word. Maybe that's the word of the week for the Jets is encouraging, but.
I thought you meant like the word, like the weak, like inferior. I'm like, why is that a bad word?
The word of the week, the word of the
word of the pathetic.
Yeah, no. I think that yeah, man. I don't know. I don't think they're gonna beat the Bills this week, but I love it.
Yeah, if they cover, I'm happy with that.
What's the spread?
I think it's like Bills 7.5, which is
my prediction had them just barely not cover.
Seems like Vegas is saying, all right, Justin Fields isn't going to have almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers.
No, it's very much a prove it. Like, I don't think Vegas is quote unquote fooled or, convinced by Justin Fields and the offense's performance in Week 1. And neither are we, for the record. We're not. Like, I'm not, for as much as there's promise coming out of Week 1, it's not like, crazy shit happens Week 1. Again, we've seen Zach Wilson have really good games before. That doesn't mean shit. Like, do it again. Prove you can do it again.
And with that, we're going to call time on this episode of the Jet Press Podcast. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. You're able to find us on all the platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. And we're on YouTube, liking the stream, subscribing, donating memberships. All of that helps us make more good content. Justin, are we preparing for 0-2? Because it sounds like we are.
Yeah, probably. Probably. I would expect it, but
a good 0-2.
A good 0-2.
A spirited 0-2.
It was a fun game on Sunday. Fun week. Fun show. We brought back the GGSM, which makes me happy. All right. So I'm looking forward to our to the game on Sunday and then our post-game show afterwards. But until then, thank you all for joining us on the show today. You can follow Mike on Twitter at @ByMikeLuciano. Follow me on Twitter, Justin Z. Fried. Follow the Jet Press, download the Jet Press Podcast wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok. We've been posting there a lot. I think we're closing in on like 900 followers now. So
yes, we
appreciate the support there. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. You could also become a member today. Once again, thank you to Austria Jets fan. I feel like we're going to do that every show, but it deserves a shout out. I believe he donated.
Keeps doing that. We're going to keep shouting him out.
Right. Like 20 more memberships, right? We're going to become we're going to get a second job as on the tourist board for the country of Austria at this point. But yeah, you guys know what to do. We stream live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time and live immediately following every single Jets game. So this Sunday after the game, we will be live. Come back to the Jet Press YouTube channel. You can find us there. Thank you all for listening to the Jet Press Podcast. I've been Justin Fried. That's Mike Luciano. See you guys next time.
Hoping against hope for 1-1.